Generally we go through Prime Minister, but I wrote in phases, so that somehow has affected, but overall it has not been affected. We'll take care of that. While dictating our discussion, we can take that way. So to understand Prime Minister wise, you can understand it better, but in phases manner also we can understand. So these are some major committee commissions which you should know. Although when we deal each section, so we talk about committee commissions. So, but here if you talk about all those committee commissions, it will be difficult to mention also and difficult to write also at one place. But if you know that in recruitment itself we have a set of committee commissions. In training also you can see this. So that way if you see sectoral topics, so there you can deal. Here we are talking in general way. So some of the committees which were constituted by the first government, or let's say we can consider Nehru era. In that time A.D. Gorwala was one committee, Paul Appleby second committee, Balwant Rai Mehta committee on Panchayati Raj institutions or democratic decentralization, plus Santanam committee was set up on corruption, and then Lal Bahadur Shastri era it was Administrative Reform Commission first. So first major reform commission was ARC first in 1966 during Lal Bahadur Shastri time. This, although let's say Balwant Rai Mehta committee is also important for democratic decentralization when we'll teach Panchayati Raj institutions, so there we'll talk it. And questions have been asked also on Paul Appleby committee, so we have to deal a bit of this. Gorwala not important, just only to mention the name. Yes, on this also, so it is important committee to will talk. So basically Nehru era, if we see that, so these are some major committee commissions, and on the recommendations of those committee commissions, steps were taken, reforms were introduced. It is not necessary to introduce reforms only through committee commissions. Government can take reforms without even committee commissions, but reforms and committee commissions go hand in hand, you can say that. Generally when government wants to bring any major reform, so it wants to set up a committee so that committee can look into those aspects and it can give recommendation, and the recommendations become basis for implementing reforms. It is not necessary that when government has constituted a committee or commission and then commission has recommended, so then there will be reform taken necessarily. So this is what we are trying to deal. So when we'll also deal why we need reforms during that time, what was the approach of reform and why those committee commissions were set up. While dictating or taking each one, then we'll talk. Here again we want to give an overview. Now let's say Nehru era ends, then you'll find Lal Bahadur Shastri time. So as we told in corruption cases that since corruption started increasing, so that is how Santanam committee was first committee on corruption. And its recommendations resulted into, as we told, about CVC and CBI constitution. So which we talk here. Then after Nehru era, when Lal Bahadur Shastri era came, so then ARC first was constituted, that is known as Administrative Reform Commission. It is the most important administrative reform commission ever constituted till date. Till date, we have not constituted such a major commission. So, because its mandate was, its mandate was entire Indian administration. Generally, when committee commissions are constituted, so mandates are divided. Mandates are defined, which we say as term of reference. When we set up any committee, its agenda is given by the government. For what or in which area it has to recommend reforms. So ARC first was constituted, so entire administration was given as term of reference. Hence it is the biggest ever commission set up, and it was set up on the basis of Hoover Commission in US. The Hoover Commissions were constituted, two such, 1 and 2 in US, 1945 around, on the basis of influence of classical approach. Hence, in India, when Hoover Commission basis this ARC first was constituted, so in a way it was also influence of classical approach. This, but you know that ki Lal Bahadur Shastri time was very very short duration for he remained Prime Minister. Change, then Indira Gandhi government, so she came to power. When she came to power, so you know that we have told also Kothari committee and others, but here we do not write all those details, already we have told. So, but a major reform commission in her tenure was considered as this economic reform commission. Economic reform commission was headed by L.K. Jha. You know that economic reform was brought in 1991, but the process started quite back. This, it was economic reform commission under L.K. Jha, but no steps were taken. Then first tenure ends, let's say that. Meanwhile, Janata government comes to power, and Janata government, when it comes to power, it constituted one major reform commission, which we say as National Police Commission. The National Police Commission first, 1978, first time a reform commission on police is set up, that time after independence. But still 1978 reforms were not brought related to policing, so it was first major commission. This, but Janata government also, you know that it was short-lived. The Janata government was also a short-lived government. Hence, change, again Indira Gandhi came to power. By the time union-state relations started becoming conflictual, and that is how finally Sarkariya Commission was constituted. The first commission on center-state relations. Sarkariya Commission was constituted in 1983, then by the time it gave recommendation it was 88, so that we consider another major commission. After ARC first, if any major commission we can consider, it is Sarkariya Commission. This. Then you know that in 90s led by coalition era, it's the coalition era, but in that coalition era, you know that the most important aspect we took is new economic, the new economic policy 1991. No any particular committee or commission can take credit for new economic policy. Rather it was, you can consider that the situation, environment and developments, ecology, all those things, LPG, NPM, if you talk in public administration. Already there were reforms initiated during Rajiv Gandhi era, so that time also, so that also will deal. So already reforms were initiated, including computerization, liberalization during Rajiv Gandhi time. Hence, let's see, 1991 reform was influenced by its own context, and by that time it has also become need of the hour. This, we needed role of market and let's say replacing the role of the state, that we can consider. Finally, let's say things go, major committee commission we do not have, although there are some minor committee commissions. So many committee commissions we have. You can have Arjun Sengupta committee, C. Ragarajan committee, if you take Vijay Kelkar committee on taxation reforms, you can say Raj Chelia committee on financial reform, you can say taxation reform also. So we'll deal, when we'll deal those sectoral topics. So when all topics are taught, then you will see it, so you will understand more better when reforms were brought and those reform commissions, etc. in different fields. Finally, let's say that first coalition government, then it is this called Devi Gowda time, you can say I.K. Gujral time. Then I tried to write Vajpayee time, but there was no any major such committee commission on Vajpayee time. Although while dealing, will tell you about NDA era, and during NDA era the reforms which were taken largely related to Hota committee and YKLF committee. Then finally let's say that UPA era comes 2004, and then since it has 10 years of time, so 2004 to 2014, and then it tried to bring sequel, you can consider. Like ARC first, so ARC second. This. And when you say National Police Commission first, so National Police Commission second. And when Sarkariya Commission, so it is Punchi Commission, Madan Mohan Punchi Commission. It is second Center State Relation Commission. First Sarkariya Commission, then second Center State Relation Commission. So we have so far, let's say, two such Union State, means Center State Relations Commission, Sarkariya and Punchi Commission, two Police Reform Commissions, and two, let's say, ARC first and ARC second. Then government was trying to implement, in the process of implement, by the time it can do anything major, this is how we have next era. Next era is led by a new party in majority, so then it is era which is known for less committee commissions but more radical reforms. Major committee commissions have not been constituted, although there are some, let's say, minor committee commissions, you can say, in different sectors. But as far as major committee you will find or commission you will find, so we do not have any major committee or commission. But it has taken radical reforms. Why it has taken radical reforms? Simply because, as we told once, that they have remained for over 60 years or 50 years in opposition. So when they have remained in opposition, so then you know that they have seen that what are the, let's say, loopholes of the government. You can see loopholes sitting outside the stadium, isn't it? So as an audience, you know weaknesses of players more than player per se. So since they have remained opposition for such a long time, so they knew the loopholes, right? Plus they have their own way of, let's say, constructing this country, developing this country. So those things they got opportunity to bring change. That way we can consider, that's why radical reforms were expected, and that is how we can consider. Because largely if you see, many reforms have failed from this place to this place, so they want to now go for radical reforms. That way we can consider. Plus it is also, let's say, after 23 years of this coalition government, a majority government comes to power. Generally when a majority government comes to power, so it is more amenable to bring radical reforms. Strong executive means radical reforms also. That is how the benefit. That way we can consider, we will deal it. Then we have to see, this will become basis that we will have to evaluate also on the basis whether our reforms have been incremental or radical, whether reforms have been structural, procedural or behavioral, this aspect. So what we have been lacking and what are the factors which have resulted into lack of effective reforms or lack of effective implementation of reforms. And that is what we have to talk of. Let's talk about all these things.
The first step towards achieving your dreams is having the right coach. Get the best education with Lukmaan IAS and make your UPSC dreams come true. Download the app now.